Hey guys, welcome to Tech Approved. So we have next-gen consoles coming up really soon in November, with Xbox coming November 10th and the PS5 coming November 12th. One of the most important aspects of a console is the way you interact with it. That's why I'm going to help you guys decide which console you would like to get. So in today's video, the thing that we're going to be comparing are the controllers. Controllers haven't been changed much on Sony's side till the PS4. The PS4 had received a touchpad and a slightly different design, changing up the way PlayStation controllers look. This year we have a much bigger change on the Dualsense controller that will probably change the way you interact with most games. With a whole new design that looks a lot more like an Xbox controller, Sony has made huge changes to the design of the new Dualsense. The light bar on the controller has been moved to the side for a simpler look that won't use as much battery hopefully. We have a whole new shape and many other changes built in that I'll explain later. Now the Xbox controller for the Series X and Series S went with a simpler design that sticks with the past Xbox controllers, just with some smaller changes on the grips and a new 8-directional D-pad for better control. So Sony's design is more of a revolution, while Xbox went with more of an evolution of the design, with Sony changing up quite a lot of things really for next gen, with Xbox sticking with something quite simple. Now both controllers look quite good, and the design is definitely cool for both of them, but I think Xbox controller will still be more comfortable, but I do still prefer the sticks on the PS5 controller being side to side just like they have been for quite long. So for the design segment, there really isn't a clear winner, it's more what you like or prefer more. So, in my opinion, I do like the design of the PS5 controller more, but it really matters what you like more. Next up, we have the buttons. Now the buttons on the controllers have not been changed much, but yes, there are a few new additions and changes that will be present on your console of choice. So the DualSense controller has received not too many huge changes, but there are some changes that I think will make huge differences when you actually get your hands on them. One of the biggest changes in my opinion is the new adaptive triggers. This will allow devs to add resistance to the controller for a much more enjoyable experience. An example of this would be when you are drawing a bow. As the bow gets to the end, the trigger will create resistance as you would have in real life, the same way you would when you're pulling a bow, there would be resistance on it. Otherwise, the touchpad is a little bigger with a built-in mic and a speaker below the options button on one side, and a new create button on the other side. The Series X has also received a new share button in the middle of the controller. The Xbox controller has also received a new 8-direction D-pad for better control, just like the Elite controller. And the trigger has received a grip type texture for a better feel and better grip. Microsoft also says that they have reduced the latency of the new controller, so you may notice things to be a little faster from when you press a button. Now the Xbox controller also does seem like it has resistance. As we have seen with past Xbox controllers, there is a little bit of resistance in some games, but it's mainly more of a vibration feeling that you can get in that controller too. So yes, I think Sony's playing catch up here with Xbox trying to get a better feature. I think Sony's trying to jump Xbox and get to the next step with this whole adaptive trigger / vibration haptic feedback engine thing. So like I was saying, Sony's approach is definitely more aggressive, with some devs saying that they can recreate a gun locking up feeling with the controller also. So if you're playing a game in which you're holding a gun and using it, and if it gets jammed or something, the controller's adaptive triggers would actually vibrate, and you'd be able to feel that the tension in the controller, just like you would with an actual gun. Now obviously I don't know what this feels like, but I would imagine this will give a better sense of immersion for people playing a game like, say, that like a gun game or something like that. So in the end, I like the buttons more on the Sony controller, but the Xbox has what will be a better D-pad and seems like a very easy to hold controller, just like the previous one. It seems like Xbox has taken the controller and made slight improvements to just make it better, but they haven't gone ahead and made any giant crazy changes just as Sony has done. In the end, it will be interesting to see which controller will be better and if Sony's haptic feedback engine is any good. Now for a smaller but still more important factor is the compatibility of the controllers. This is something that Sony hasn't given much detail about, but you won't be able to use PS4 controllers on PS5 for games unless it's a PS4 title. So this means any of those extra PS4 controllers you have bought, sadly you won't be able to use them on your PS5 unless you decided to pick up an old PS4 game and play it on your PS5. So I would imagine that you won't be able to use a PS5 controller on your PS4 either, but this hasn't been confirmed, but I doubt that that's going to actually be a thing as backwards compatibility for the controller. Now you haven't been able to use the PS4 DualShock 4 controller on a PC with a cable or even with Bluetooth, so I would imagine that you can still do so with Bluetooth or on any device or wired. Now the Xbox controller will work on older consoles and you can use the old controllers on the new Series X. You will also be able to use your Xbox controller wired or with Bluetooth on a PC. In the end, I would say this is a win for Xbox as there are basically no limits with the compatibility. You can go backwards, forwards, you can use it with other devices and other systems, besides the PlayStation of course, but still, I mean, compatibility that goes to Xbox. Now for the charging. So both consoles have been updated with the new USB-C charging standard, which is just incredible, as that's going to make everybody's lives a lot easier as they can use the same charger they use for their phone, for their PCs, for just a lot of other devices they have around their home, and they can use that to charge their controllers. Now the DualSense controller doesn't have a giant light bar just like the DS4 did, but this should mean that it will have much better battery life, as we all knew that the DualShock 4 used quite a lot of battery just for that light bar. The Xbox controller also has received USB-C, but we will still be able to use AA's out of the box. You can still get a rechargeable pack, or you can even reuse your old ones that you have with your Xbox One on your Series X controller. The Xbox team had reported that quite a lot of users liked the flexibility, so they decided to stick with what the fans actually wanted. In this case, I don't think there is a clear winner, as we don't know the actual battery life, but much cannot be said, but Sony does have a built-in battery, so it depends what you want. Now the final thing before we finish off this video, so there are a few things that make these controllers different that will justify prices for each of them. As seen with the DualSense controller, we have the adaptive triggers I talked about earlier, but Sony has also added new advanced motors for a more precise haptic engine. In practice, this should give the DualSense an edge in, well, sense, as it would give you the ability to feel your games if devs decide to use it, of course. Sony has said that these features with the haptic engine will be able to recreate feelings such as if you're driving on asphalt or if you're driving on dirt. So hopefully in the next Gran Turismo game, we are going to see that if you're going off into the grass, you would actually be able to tell you're going off into the grass, and if you're driving on asphalt, it would feel pretty smooth. Another thing we have already seen confirmed for a game such as Gran Turismo is the feeling of ABS and stuff, such as you would actually be able to tell where you're losing grip on your car. So this is, I feel like this haptic feedback stuff is going to be crazy useful in racing games, and hopefully we're going to see it being used quite a lot. Another interesting feature on the DualSense will be the mic, and it seems like games could use this in some ways. I know that the Formula 1 titles that are released yearly, just like FIFA and stuff, but I do think the Formula 1 titles are a lot better and you should definitely try playing one. They could use a mic for talking to your race engineer, as there is a mechanic in the game that allows you to talk to the race engineer using a mic if you have one. But for this to work, you needed a headset. Now maybe this will work even if you just use a controller, hopefully. If Codemasters is watching this, which they probably aren't, please add that, that'd be cool. Now both controllers still offer an audio jack for using wired headphones. An advantage of the Sony is that the controllers will also have the contacts on the bottom to be used with Sony's charging base, of course. That fits in with the design perfectly of the PS5. In my opinion, it looks absolutely amazing, and if you are getting a second controller, it might be a good idea to get one of those too, because it does really look good. Now in the end, the Xbox controller gets a lot right, and we'll continue with that, but Sony went with innovation first and may offer a better experience in terms of next-gen games and more features. Finally, the end of the video. Oh wait, I forgot to tell you guys the price. So let's take a look at the price and my final opinions on the controllers. This video is getting quite long, and I think this might be the longest video I've ever made, but that's okay because this is quite an important video and it's gonna help you decide which console you want. So the DualSense controller costs more than the DualShock 4 controller at $70 rather than what I think was $60. The Xbox controller retains its price of $60, but yes, you still would have to get a rechargeable battery, of course. And it's kind of weird that Xbox doesn't include this. I feel like Microsoft should just include the rechargeable battery and then give you the option to remove it if you want, because the fact that you have to go out and then get that rechargeable battery, it's kind of annoying, and I would imagine some people just wouldn't care for that, and then, you know, they're wasting batteries because you have to reuse AA's, and yeah, so I think that's what they should do. But in the end, technically, I'd say the DualSense will be cheaper, as the whole battery pack thing usually costs around $20, so you'll be paying $10 more for the Xbox, I guess, then. With the DualSense controller offering more tech and features, really in my opinion, the DualSense controller will be better. Then again, if devs don't use the features, then it'll just be a gimmick, but it's not like Sony is charging much more for the controller, so DualSense does seem to be a good deal. And I'm pretty sure all of Sony's first-party titles are going to be using most of these features as they're designed for that controller, like those games are going to be built around the system. It's definitely going to be interesting to try Astro's Playroom, which is going to be built into each and every PS5, on how that controller really works with that demo game. It really isn't a demo game, it's a full game, so it's going to be really interesting to see how that works. Now, you won't be buying a DualSense controller if you have an Xbox, so it really just depends on what console you get. Because you're not going to buy a DualSense controller to use with your Xbox, or you're not going to buy an Xbox controller to use with your PS5. But you might be watching this video if you want to use one of these controllers on PC. But I mean, you should probably still use an Xbox controller on PC, because DualSense is probably going to work a little weirdly on Windows and stuff. Thanks for watching today's video, and if you liked the video, please be sure to subscribe, as we're going to be taking a look at the PS5 when it comes out, with tons of videos planned on the new PS5, as we're going to be doing unboxings, we're going to take a look at the UI, a bunch of different things. So if you guys want to see all that stuff from us, please be sure to subscribe and like this video. That's greatly appreciated. And yeah, thank you guys for watching.